Friends, at this time I invite you to rise if you wish as we join our voices together for our opening hymn, number 115. God of grace and glory, grant us wisdom and courage. Let's sing together. Amen. You may be seated. Friends, good morning. And welcome to worship here on this Sunday morning from the historic sanctuary of the Fountain Street Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a place we are building together, a home for all people and a people's cathedral, a place of radical hospitality, a place of reckless love, a building as welcoming as our people, a community that celebrates and investigates the breadth and diversity of human religion and spiritual expression, a place where the afflicted are comforted, and a place where the comfortable are afflicted. An independent, interreligious, free-thinking community of hope. Friends, you are welcome here. My name is Reverend Nathan Dannison. I serve as the interim minister here at the church. Today, our worship will be concluded with the annual member meeting of the church. So we will have a bit of an abbreviated service this morning, followed by an intermission, and I have more to say about that. That intermission, though, is very important because before the members are invited back for the annual membership meeting following worship, during that break, you can purchase some pies and baked goods. Before I forget, the purpose of the annual membership meeting today is to elect from within yourselves representatives to serve on the governing board and the foundation board. But during the break, you're encouraged to purchase pies and baked goods in the social hall, and I've been told that you can purchase your pies and cakes and whatnot, and the folks in the social hall will hold them for you until after the meeting, safely in the safe, in the vault of the church for you to take with you home after the meeting. But this is an annual fundraiser that supports the Fountain Street Church Choice Fund. The Choice Fund strives to provide equal access to reproductive health care in Michigan by raising funds to assist individuals seeking abortion care. The Fountain Street Church Choice Fund is privately funded and is proud to be the state's longest-standing abortion fund. It was founded on compassion for patients, the difficulties they face in obtaining care, respect for their fundamental rights to make their own decisions about pregnancy. This fund was in operation before the passage of Roe v. Wade and continues to operate following its repeal and will continue to do so forever. So please participate in this fundraiser and others and purchase some things today because it is saving lives. Also, I want to remind you to please turn in your annual pledges if you haven't done so already. I want to thank the 150 of you who have already pledged toward our 2025 operating budget. This allows us to plan for the year to come. And on your bulletin on the back, there's a QR code you can scan to make your pledge. You can also go to fountainstreet.org. You can click on any link that says pledge. We'll get you there. I put one right at the top of the page this week as well. Finally, if you are having difficulty using our church's giving program to fulfill your 2023 or 24 pledges, or you're having any technical difficulties, reach out to us at the church office. We're moving at about a mile a minute to streamline and clarify our financial procedures. It's likely that myself or Cassie or one of the members of our team from Hungerford CPAs can help you, and we appreciate your patience during this time. If you haven't downloaded the Church Center app on your phone or mobile device, that can also help you with this, and you can often take care of quite a few of these things yourself. You just go to the App Store and search for Church Center and download it, and it will take you from there. I want to thank Penelope and John Collins Jr. For the cornucopia today up here in our chancel. It's beautiful. And I want to also thank them for calling my attention to our first reading today, which is a tradition. As one of the newest folks here at the church, I don't know all of your traditions yet, and I'm moving to learn them, but it's beneficial when folks loop me in. The cornucopia is a celebration of thanksgiving for the bounty of this church's collective family, past, present, and future. A family of hope dwelling in a household of peace. Is Thanksgiving. Let us thank each other and this place and its history for the promise of peace to come. Let peace be our promise of thanksgiving. And so, friends, may peace be with you. Let's go ahead and greet one another with words of peace.
Good morning. Please join along with me this morning in a harvest of gratitude, which is printed in your bulletin. Once more, the fields have ripened to harvest, and the fruitful earth has fulfilled the promise of spring. Has been rewarded. They have sown, reaped. How rich and how beautiful is the bounty that's gathered, the golden grain, the clusters of corn, and the grapes of both purple and green. And all the colors of orchard and garden, vineyard and field. Seasons follows after seasons. After winter, the spring, and after spring, the harvest-laden autumn. From bud to blossom, from fruit to fruit, from seed to bud, the beauty of earth unfolds. From the harvest of the soil that we are given occasion to garner a harvest of the heart and of the mind. A harvest of resolve to be careful stewards. A harvest of reverence for the wondrous power and life it works in things that grow in the soil. A harvest of gratitude for every good which we enjoy. Of fellowship for all those who sustain by earth's bounty.
At this time, I want to invite all of the children of the church who are here this morning to come down front and join me here on the chancel steps and receive and give a blessing before character school, before Sunday school, before all of the awesome work that you have planned for today. You can come down front. It's kind of a long ways, I know. Walk it. Good morning. Good to see you all. It is wonderful to have you here. Again, so we're still learning each other's names a little bit, but I'm Nathan, and it's awesome to see so many of you here, and I saw quite a few of last week as well. It's good to see you. This morning, we have a really cool thing up there in the back of the chancel. It's called, well, does anybody know what that basket is called? I know I did. I'm going to see if you're paying attention. Yeah, what did you? A cornucopia, exactly. And we all know what cornucopia means, right? So I don't even have to talk about that part. Yeah, we all know this, the symbol of the cornucopia, right? The infant Zeus, nourished by the holy goat Amalthea in the Grecian caves. Maybe you know it as the sign of the bounty of the mother goddess Gaia, or whatever tradition you bring. But the cornucopia has been a sign of bounty and harvest and thanksgiving for thousands of years. And I know that when you go to character school today, you're going to be talking about gratitude and some of the history and traditions of the First Nations people of this part of the world and the ways in which they celebrated and enjoyed the harvest season together. So this is, we take it pretty seriously in our culture. We have a big holiday. We just call it, well, what's the big holiday that's coming up? Yeah, Thanksgiving. It sort of does what it says on the tin, right? So I was hoping for our blessing today before you head off to your adventures that are important to character school, that we could say a blessing of gratitude, and that we can say that this week we will be grateful. Just a very simple blessing. So if you raise a hand or, a foot or whatever you want to do, and then if you repeat after me, then we'll make sure that we're all blessed. This week, we will be grateful. All right, now you can make your way to, follow the banner and make your way to character school.
That's always a tough act to follow, isn't it? I'm grateful to be able to share the second reading this morning with you that comes from Psalm 84. How beloved is your dwelling place, sovereign of the vanguard of heaven. My soul longs, truly she faints, for the courts of the God who dwells above the cherubim. My heart and my flesh sing for joy to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young at your altars, radiant one, my majestic one, and my God. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. Forever they praise you. Blessed is the child of earth and Eve, whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the pilgrim highways. As they pass through the valley of Baca, springs they make it, even more blessings, covering it with the early rain. They go from strength to strength. The God of gods will be seen in Zion. Majesty of the heavens, hear my prayer. Incline your ear, O God of Rebekah's lineage. Behold our shield, O God. Look on the face of your anointed. For better is a day in your courts than 1,000 anywhere else. I would choose to be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. For sun and shield is the resplendent God. The glorious one bestows grace and honor. She withholds no good thing from those who walk blamelessly. Commander of heaven's legions, blessed is the child of the earth who trusts in you.
A beloved and holy mystery and divine counsel, Fountain Street Church. Happy Sunday. Thank you. And happy Thanksgiving. I shall now pray. Precious gift of language, living web of life, descend like a dove, enlighten the world. Amen. Of the many confounding and frustrating experiences that accompany the work of serving as clergy in progressive or open-minded churches, perhaps none frustrates me as much as the charge that I am about to level at you. And I say this in love, and I have also said this without reservation from a half a dozen other pulpits. But church, you underestimate yourself. There are capacities and possibilities that exist within a collective group of human beings that are breathtaking and that can change the course of history and restore the face of creation. And for reasons that I don't yet understand, the confidence of any given congregation is almost always directly inverse to its open-mindedness. Or as Yeats had it when we heard that poem on Halloween Sunday, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. The first developmental task of the church in the interim period is to review its history. I don't know that you specifically need to review it so much as you need to remember it. There's a lot of history in this room. There is a medicine that cures amnesia, but it takes effort. Once I found myself in the unenviable circumstances of defending a particular church against the stated desires of a particular historic preservation district. Now, I am myself a preservationist, and so I don't like being put in that position. I like historic preservation. For the most part, I like my fellow historic preservationists. I like their committees. I like going to meetings about old things that are beautiful. But there was a situation, and it was this. This church that I was serving was fiercely independent, non-dogmatic, non-creedal, and had managed its own affairs for about 2 centuries. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah. The Historic Preservation District and the city commission to which it was then beholden wanted to place this particular church into a new kind of historic district that would then have tremendous control over that church building. The church, on the other hand, wanted to maintain control over its church building. But the city wanted to put this church building into a special new category of buildings so that the city would be able to protect the church. And this historic commission would make decisions on behalf of the church for its preservation. Like some fragile piece of porcelain pottery, the city wanted to put the church into a glass box. And the church, they didn't want to go in the box. And I was the church's minister, so I got to go to a lot of meetings. I did my very best to assume best intentions and remain as impartial as possible, but the thing that grated at me was the tone of language, if anything, that the city took with the church. And because it was very parochial. There was a lot of, well, this is for your own good. And we have these experts. They know what's best for you. And, you know, we're the city. We're the decision makers here. And I'll never forget one particularly tense meeting that was attended by representatives of the city and that historic preservation committee on one side of the table, and then a few aging members of the church's property committee on the other side of the table. And a nice young man from City Hall, wearing a suit and tie, said something along the lines of this. He said something like, since the founding of this city, we have all worked together for the common good of our community, and we're all the city, after all. And a member of that property committee, very quietly but through his teeth, said very carefully, well, you're the city. We were here when you were founded, and we will be here when you're gone. Now that, right there, is what it means to know your history. That church was older than the city. It had weathered more storms than the city. Its roots were deeper, its towers taller, its branches stronger, and it wasn't going anywhere, least of all into a box. Many things happen to people, when they lose their connection to their history. This is the reason that this is the very first task of the interim process. The other tasks can be done really in any order, but the first one must be done first. Know your history. When you lose that connection, you experience alienation and a loss of hope. Occasionally it goes the other way, and generations experience a sense of individual supremacy, the belief that our generation is the last, or the smartest, or the only one to ever face such circumstances as this. Very rarely are these things the case. The other thing that happens, that ends up happening, is you end up doing a hell of a lot of pointless labor. I knew a man once who was a materials scientist. This is like a chemist. He worked in a laboratory that was filled with spectacularly expensive equipment. And he had developed a slight tremor in his hands, and he attributed this to the overconsumption of caffeine. And he wanted to reduce his caffeine intake to the lowest level tolerable, and caffeine was his drug of choice, and his method of delivery was strong, loose-leaf black tea. I know I've told some of you this story before. He wanted to get down to the smallest serving of black tea that he could bear. Every day he put less and less tea into his teapot until, in his words, I had successfully reduced my daily intake to roughly 2 grams of loose leaf tea. Enough, he said, to exactly fill 1 single teaspoon. And so discovering in a eureka moment all on his own and from first principles why the damn thing's called a teaspoon in the first place. He said to me, smiling, someone else had been here before. Seasons follow after seasons. That was our first reading. We don't see the days growing shorter and shorter every year and then running screaming into the streets, the sun is dying. When the snow falls from the sky, we don't imagine that the rain will never return. Even children understand the passage of seasons. But we're often unable to imagine that these things might happen within the ecosystem of a community of humans, or within a nation, or a body politic, or within a city, or a congregation. We look to the past in order to discover how things came to be this way. Not to worship the past, but to learn from it. And now we've got a problem on our hands, nationally. When we perhaps thought that we'd done and dealt with it, but we do now have fascists in America. And they're gaining power again. And like an infestation, they appear in waves. Now, fascists, the scholars will tell us, are obsessed with the past. This is true. But they're also deeply incurious people. And so rather than study the actual past, they fabricate a make-believe past. And then they fall in love with their own fiction. And so it is the case that fascists attempt to recreate a past that never actually existed. And this is part of why fascism ultimately eventually fails, though not before it inevitably does grievous harm to society. My personal pet theory is that fascists invent a false history for themselves because cowards are terrified to tell the truth about their own past. But it's also true that the people who decide to fight against the rise of fascism also often forget the past. They forget that they are older than the fascists and the fundamentalists. Never forget that fundamentalism was a reaction to, not a return to. But they forget oftentimes that the truth has sustained us longer than any new movement, any new turn to a nostalgia for a past that never really existed. And that community is stronger, and sometimes the people who mobilize against the rising tides of fascism forget that they are the elders in the room. When this happens, and good people forget their own past, it can lead to despair, and a lot of statements that begin with phrases like, never before in American history. No. Someone has been here before. That's the promise, though, that we heard in the psalmist song we just heard Meredith read a moment ago. Blessed is the child of earth and Eve, whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the pilgrim highways. This is the map to the good. In whose heart are the pilgrim highways. In the 1930s in America, fascism was rising and becoming normalized. One example from my own vocation. Father Charles Coughlin was a Catholic priest and a virulent anti-Semite, and he would broadcast his vile opinions in a radio program. They broadcast it across the nation. Father Coughlin would get on the air and he would celebrate the policies of the ascendant German Nazi Party, and he would praise tyrants like Benito Mussolini. And every week, fully 1/4 of all Americans tuned in to hear his broadcasts. 1/4. You can't even get 1/4 of Americans to vote for a single candidate for president today. In this last election, about 1/5 of us voted one way, 1/5 of us voted the other way, and 3/5 either didn't or couldn't vote. But in the 1930s, 1/4 of the country was listening to this one voice. And in the 1930s, liberal churches in America were emptying out and being sold. They were being converted into fraternal lodges, Masonic halls, Elks lodges, things, and dance halls and movie theaters. The Sunday attendance at this church, Fountain Street Church, was less than 100. Its active membership was less than half of what it is today. That's in this building. And that's back when there wasn't any competition for attendance on Sunday mornings. Fountain Street Church found itself under tremendous pressure. Their minister was floundering, unable to rise to meet that moment. And he was also entrenched. He'd been there for a bit. But then, of course, times change. After a few false starts, 2 things happened. America entered the war in the Pacific and in Europe, and fascism was then rightly understood as treason to democracy. And the pulpit committee at this church called a 33-year-old radical Canadian minister out of Chicago to come and try something a little different. And the message of Fountain Street Church stepped out ahead of the culture of the city, rather than just trailing along behind in its shadow. And then the people followed, and the church blossomed. And justice movements began to take root here, as they had in previous seasons of the life of the church. So today, Fountain Street Church is stronger than you might think. It's a hell of a lot stronger than it was at various other points in its history. This past week, I was pulling together an abbreviated interim annual report, and I spent some time with your annual board reports going all the way back to the fire in 1917. I specifically read in detail the reports from years where I knew that you were going through some fresh hell. And I need to remember there's no fresh hell. It's always just the same old hell, just warmed over a bit. It's a little different. I grabbed a few hopeful quotes and I assembled a little collage for myself and put it over my desk. And I liked that little institutional memory board enough, I copied it into the back of this year's report. I'll put it up on the new website for you to see too. The destination, church, has always been within you. The map, the pilgrim highways are in your heart. The path is within you, the process is within you, and you've done this thing and the other thing and everything that needs doing. You've done it before, and you'll do it again just as surely as spring follows after winter, and just as surely as the nesting birds return home, as surely as you ever have, so long as you have hope. And that's why we call hope a promise. You are at a location right now of tremendous promise. And I wish to heaven I could take you all down into those archives downstairs and show you the mountains you've picked up and thrown into the sea. I wish I could. Because I think we can see mountains on the horizon to come. And they're no greater than those that you have already conquered. So then let hope suffice, and the sure knowledge that you have been preparing for this, whatever this is. You've been preparing for over a century and a half. You have everything that you need in body, mind, and spirit. You have everything that you need, church. All that remains is to get to work. And so, Fountain Street Church, we ready to get to work? Yeah. Eyes on the horizon and hands to the plow. Amen? Amen. Amen. Friends, let us take a moment together in silence and in prayer and meditation, and then I will invite us together to receive an offering. Let us spend a moment in silent prayer. As I invite our musicians to come forward, as I invite Noah and Emmanuel to come and offer this offertory, I want to invite all of you to give generously to sustain the work of this church in this community. I now invite the ushers to come forward to receive our gifts, our pledges, and our offerings for this day. And thank you.
We will call this place our home, the dirt in which our roots may grow. Through the storms we'll push and pull. We will call this place our home. We'll tell our stories on these walls. Every year measure how tall. And just like a work of art, we'll tell our stories on these walls. Let the years we're here be kind, be kind. Let our hearts like doors open wide, settle our bonds like wood over time, over time. Give us bread, give us salt, give us wine. A little broken, little new. We are the impact and the glue. Capable more than we know. We'll call this fixer upper home. With each year our color fades. Slowly our paint chips away. But we will find the strength and the nerve it takes to repaint and repaint and repaint every day. Let the years we're here be kind, be kind. Let our hearts like doors open wide, settle our bonds like woods over time, over time. Give us bread, give us salt, give us wine. Let the years we're here be kind, be kind. Let our hearts like doors open wide, settle our bones like woods over time, over time. Give us bread, give us salt, give us wine. Give us bread, give us salt, give us wine. Smaller than dust on this map lies the greatest thing we had, the dirt in which our roots may grow, and the right to call it home.
Please rise to your feet and join me as we sing a blessing. Our hope for the future is our investment in our home. Together, we can face any mountain. Together, we will be a church ready for this moment. Friends, let us join our voices together in singing our final hymn, number 145, as Tranquil Streams. At this time, you are dismissed, and for the members, please return in about 10 minutes for the annual meeting. God bless you all.